Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Parental Vision Podcast. I'm your host, Tiana, and today's segment is sponsored by Faye's Coffee, feeling those late night parenting moments. Today, we have a wonderful guest coming to us from Farmington, Connecticut, Clare Courter. Welcome.
Thank you, Tiana.
Absolutely. So obviously you're here because you're a mother.
I am.
So tell me, how many children do you have?
I have 3.
Wow, 3. What's that like?
It's crazy sometimes, and what's crazier is I'll probably have more.
You want more kids?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe 2 more. But I keep praying, like, maybe I'll get twins, so I only have to do it one more time.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, no, I have 3. I have girl, boy, girl, Destiny, Dante, and Millie. And they're 14, 12, and almost 11. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much like almost done and you want to start all over. Oh,
freshman
my goodness.
in high school. And like, yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So tell me a little bit more about your kids. Which one is more like you?
Oh, probably Destiny. But I think that's probably just because she's already 14. So like you really kind of see more of that adult type personality coming out. She's awesome. She's a field hockey player and a freshman in high school, but she's already looking at colleges.
Wow.
So she's a great kid. I love her.
Wow. Okay. And how is Destiny different from her brother and sister?
I think that she has more of my attitude. Like, I see more fire in her, I think, than the other 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely starting to, but like I said, maybe because she's 14, we'll see what happens with the other 2.
She's just getting to that age. And what's your son like?
So my son is quiet, and he loves manga and anime, and he's a huge comic book nerd.
Wow.
Yep. And not an athlete. Well, he wants to be an athlete, but he's not very athletic. Unlike my oldest, which she is super, super athletic. So.
And what about your other daughter?
She's still tiny. She is, we call her the Buddha baby.
Oh.
So she's like a star child that's been here before. I don't know what it is. She like sees right into your soul. And yeah. So she is, actually, maybe she's more like me because I feel like there's a part of me that's like that too. But
okay. Yeah, there's
always
a little
charging
bit.
her crystals.
She has crystals? Oh my goodness. So she's like really intuitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
especially for only being 10 years old,
Exactly.
almost 11 at the end of the month.
That's beautiful. So
Yeah.
she's starting early.
Yeah.
Getting into it early. I like that. There's nothing wrong with that. So how old were you when you first became a mother?
20.
20.
So young, but not super, super young.
Yeah.
But still in like a stage of my life where it kind of disrupted like the natural flow of things, I feel like a little bit.
How so?
So I was kind of mid going to school and pulled back a little bit on that, and became a mom and started working full time instead of continuing to get a college education. I did graduate high school on time, which I have friends that became moms in high school, and that clearly has more of an effect than waiting until you're 20. So, but it was okay. I worked in restaurants, worked as a bartender for a long time, moved my way up to country clubs, and when I had been there for a few years, realized that I really, really loved doing weddings and events, and went out on my own and started my own wedding and event planning company, which is what I do now.
Wonderful.
And full circle, so my oldest daughter is a certified babysitter, and she does pet sitting and childcare at our weddings and events as well. So like also trying to make it a family business.
That is awesome. Oh my goodness. So when did your daughter figure out she had like the niche for that?
So she started babysitting 2 years ago. She'll be 15 in January. She started babysitting 2 years ago, our neighbor, after school, and got certified right away, and has pretty much had like children attached to her feet since then everywhere we go. Like she's like the baby whisperer.
The baby whisperer.
She really is. It's cute.
What was your childhood like growing up, and how do you differentiate your parenting styles from how you were raised?
So I think my dad was extremely traditional. He used to keep a menu or a calendar on the refrigerator that had like what we were going to eat for dinner every single night. Like we watched the same show every night before we went to bed at his house. My parents split when I was in second grade, which surprisingly, I think, compared to most kids, didn't really affect me because they never argued in front of us. When it came time for them to split up, they sat us down and had a very neutral, normal conversation about it and just made sure that it didn't really affect us. So we were pretty lucky in that sense. And whereas a lot of kids go through a lot more like trauma in the household when they have split parents. And so my dad was super traditional and had a routine, had a schedule. My mom's household was far more chaotic and hectic, and very non-traditional. And I kind of actually became the parent in that household, which is where I spent most of my time. My dad's house was more of like a weekend visit kind of a thing. And so I have one younger sister who is my best friend. She just became a mom in July.
Congratulations to her.
And I became an aunt for the first time.
Nice.
So I'm super excited and I'm in love all over again. Now I really have baby fever. But she's 3 years younger than me, and I spent most of my childhood from like 11 on raising her. So I guess that's more like when I became a parent. But inadvertently. So.
How did that make you feel though? Feeling like you had to mother your sister?
I don't think I really felt any way at that time. I think I just did it. I think that a lot of people can get bogged down by that and let that become their identity and let things like that kind of like weigh on them. And for me, I feel like it was a growing experience, a way to know exactly what I wanted to provide for my children, which is the feeling of responsibility, but not obligation, and learning how to become productive in your household, but knowing that you have the comfort of responsible adults in your home, that if you don't do your chore, that maybe somebody else is going to do it for you, or just never having to question that stability. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well said, understood. When you first became a mom, like what was that like? Did you plan your children? Were you ready?
No. So I definitely wasn't ready. I don't know if anybody is ever ready.
Yeah.
It's a weird like thing. I mean, I definitely wasn't super responsible at that point in my life. And it kind of brought everything to a bit of a halt for me. Like I said, I was 20, so kind of mid-party years, and still had a lot of learning and growing left to do in life, and experiences to have that there's still like some gaps there. Like I never went away to college, and Dejan, who we'll talk about soon, I'm sure, my partner, he like had the whole like living at school experience in Boston. And so sometimes he talks about that and I'm like, ooh, I don't know what that's like. I don't know what dorm life is like. I don't know what that's like going to class and going to a university or whatever. So that definitely brought things to a bit of a halt for me. But I think that overall it provided me with more experiences to learn and grow than I would have had necessarily if I was just kind of out there floating around without a purpose.
I like the way you put that.
Yeah.
I really do like the way you put that. So because you didn't go to college, would you expect your children to when they get older, or is it their choice?
It's their choice. I think now I'm 35 and I know how important further education is. But traditional 4-year degree, for them, I think that whatever they want to do in their life, if that requires a 4-year degree, good. If it requires a doctorate, let's do that. If it means going to a trade school, the best one that you can find, and becoming a craftsman of some sort, then that's cool too. If it means just taking business classes so you can run your own business, I'm also cool with that. I don't really have any particular expectations set on like what type of further education, as long as there's something to bring you closer to your goal.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well said. I like that a lot. How are your children in school?
Oh, they're all a little different. So I actually was talking just before we got on here with somebody about the fact that I homeschooled my kids for a long time.
Really?
Before COVID. COVID's actually when we went back to school. So they are great. They're very academic. They love to read. They literally devour books like in the summertime because there's not a whole lot to do. So we don't do video games. They don't really do, I mean, they can. Dejan has a video game system and every once in a while they play them, but it's not like a part of daily life. And like even my daughter's cell phone like lives in our room. She has it during the day, but then it comes and lives in our room at night. So they love school. They love to read. During the summer, they were at the library almost every day. The librarians know them all by name at the town library. And it's definitely a little different with my oldest because high school is, it's very different.
What made you want to homeschool them?
So, I'm not a fan of core curriculum, which is what's commonly used in the United States. It's kind of a one-size-fits-all with education. And I know how different all three of my kids are. And if my three kids are that different, I can't even imagine how different everybody else's kids are from mine. So I don't think that one size does fit all with education. I think that each kid really deserves a very individualized type of curriculum and plan for learning. And it's really hard to get that. I also think that we're missing a ton of fundamentals in public school, especially in young children. And so I did homeschool up until about 4 years ago. And we tried to go back to public school the year that COVID hit. So we did like a half a year of public school, went back to homeschool. My version of homeschool, not like the virtual learning. And then when everybody went back to school, we went back to school. And I think that having the foundation that was built in that time is what makes my kids be able to function in a way that's very different from the generation that they exist in. Because, like I said, not keen on, like, we're not doing this all day. We're not looking at a screen all day. They have everything that they want and need, but they don't want much because that's not how I've raised them to be. So they are very different. We live in Farmington. It's like one of the wealthier towns, but they don't live a life where they're like the common kid as far as like kids that are like, oh, I don't even think my kids know what Jordans are.
I understand.
And I think they've had some, but I don't even think they knew what they were when
they
had them. So, I think that that's super important.
That's awesome. That's good. I like that because you teach them to have their own individuality.
Yeah. We did town sports. Like, they still did tons of stuff with kids that were their age and were very assimilated into our community. When they got to school, they already knew half the kids in their grade because from just stuff around town or whatever.
Right.
We didn't, like, hermitize them.
Understood. So with the way the world is today, I'm sure you watch the news, or if you don't, I'm sure you've heard about it. Mm-hmm. The bullying, the school shootings, the threats made at schools every now and again. How did you adapt to sending your kids back to public school, even though that had already occurred?
So each of them kind of did a little bit of a different thing with that. My son has actually experienced bullying, fairly extreme bullying too. So we've dealt with that firsthand. That's like the mama bear takes over and I want to go down to the school and I want to show up at people's houses and I want to behave totally crazy. But I have managed to trust the school system, and it seems like they've handled it well. But the brutality of kids and like some of the stuff that comes out of kids, like they're 12, and some of the stuff that's coming out of these kids' mouths, I'm like, what? You're 12 years old. Where did you even learn to say that?
Right, exactly, yeah.
It's crazy. And that comes from watching, you know, even on, I guess, like most public television, the stuff that is allowed to be said now is like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Like, this is on cable. Like, and then we wonder why our 12-year-olds are being brutalized when they're at school. Whereas both my girls are like, you know, very popular and get along very well socially and have to be told to stop talking in class.
Social butterflies.
Absolutely.
Understood. So your daughter is a teenager, the oldest. So obviously she's going to start going to parties if she hasn't already. Do you let her go to parties? Do you let her go to certain things?
We haven't. So she had her first homecoming dance.
How was that?
She loved it. She hung out with a boy she shouldn't have been hanging out with the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, it's funny. So, like, at her age, I definitely was, like, I had my first drink. And, you know, I had done, you know, I had snuck out of the house and I had done things that I shouldn't be doing and gone to parties. And I absolutely don't think that we're there yet with her. Mm-hmm. But, so part of my business, I have a mobile bar service. And so I have like a stock of alcohol in the basement. And I just recently bought a doorknob with a lock with a key. And now when we're not home or when it's at night, I lock it because I'm like, I don't know if we're there yet, but she's 14 and a lot of this looks really delicious to a 14-year-old. Like, it's fruity and it's like all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're locking it down. Like, if her 14-year-old friends or her field hockey team comes over, like, nobody's sneaking into my basement and stealing the liquor. But it's crazy because I'm like, I can't believe we're talking about this.
I know, right? But honestly, it has to come up because they're going to do it regardless. I spoke with a mom a little while back, and she actually said when her daughter decides to start partying and drinking, she will party and drink with her. What's your take on that?
So I had a friend for a long time, and she kind of took that route. And I watched firsthand the thing that I would fear the most is then it became normalized. And then there were other people's kids in the house doing that, at which point you can be held responsible if somebody leaves and drives or, you know what I mean, God forbid, you know, has too much or whatever it is. And I think that that's a very fine line. You have to be cautious. I think it depends on your child. I think it depends on the company that they keep. And if it's like, you know, hey, be safe, have a few drinks at home or, you know, have a smoke in the backyard, whatever it is. And it's teaching them to be responsible, then that's one thing. But you can definitely take that too far, I think. And I'm definitely one of those parents where, like, I don't know if my kids have ever seen me drunk. Like,
no, never?
Yeah, maybe once when we were camping.
We're on vacation. It's different.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. I feel like that's a part of my life that I would keep separate. And, like, no matter what I do, I'm always going to yell at my kids probably. Like, call me if you need a ride.
Right.
But don't freaking drink.
Don't freaking drink. Don't freaking do it.
Not until you're 21.
Yes.
Like my intern, she's 20 and she goes to Amherst and her parents just went for homecoming weekend. She's like, yeah, I'm going tailgating with my parents. And I'm like, what? You're not 21? And she's like, so? And I was like, never mind. That's cool.
Right? It's like, that's a me thing. Okay, go ahead. Do what you're going to do.
She's my intern and I don't let her drink. I'm like, you can't drink in front of me until January when you turn 21.
That's good, though, that you hold on to those morals very dearly.
Oh, yeah. And I mom everybody, not just my own kids. I'm like everybody's mom.
I love that.
Even when I'm out with my friends and we're drinking, I'm like, all right, guys, who needs bread?
How important do you think it is for you to develop a friendship with your kids? Or do you think that's just a boundary that parents and children shouldn't cross?
You should definitely be friends with your kids.
Yeah?
But you shouldn't need your kids to feel like your friends.
Say that one more time for the people that didn't catch it.
You should be friends with your kids, but you shouldn't need your kids shouldn't need to feel like your friends.
I like that.
Because when they believe that, and you should be an authority figure to your children. You can be friends with them, but you should be an authority figure. And as soon as they stop viewing you that way, all of that respect is lost. And that's really what keeps the order in the household, you know? They do have to respect you. You should be 30 and respect your parents. You should be 60 and respect your parents. And you have to hold that position of authority with them for sure. But still have a friendship. Like, me and my daughter can hop in the car and go, you know, get our eyebrows done and go to the mall. And that's fun, but don't get it messed up.
I like the way you said that. Don't get it messed up.
No, don't. And no matter if you're taller than me, I'll always be bigger than you.
That's right. So that was going to bring me to my next question. How do you discipline your children?
Oh, sometimes I want to punch them in the face, but I don't. I don't.
Oh my God.
Like, there's those moments where I'm like, are you an adult yet? Like, but no, I feel like the best way to discipline them is take away everything that's important. Like, if it's, you know, if it's candy they love, if it's Pokemon cards, whatever that thing, and it always shifts too. Like, it's never the same thing. Like, my daughter literally said to us the other day, she was like, just so you guys know, my youngest daughter, my favorite color will be green next year. It's blue right now. Like, it's always shifting, but like, whatever that thing is that they're obsessed with in that moment, just take it away from them. Like, that usually works. I mean, it takes like 2 or 3 times sometimes, but like, it usually works. You just have to remove everything. My son was really bad one year. He was 9, and I made him take all of his Christmas gifts from under the tree and to give them away to other people. We drove around and he gave them away to other people, other kids that we knew. Like, he was that horrific. That was like, okay, grab. And also, are kids going to watch this? Like, my kids don't believe in Santa. They haven't for a very long time. I'm super honest with them about stuff like that. So, like, in our household, like, and for a long time I was a single mom. So in our household, like, my thing was, like, when they were really, really little, they got small gifts from Santa, and anything that I could do that was bigger, I let them know that was from me, because I didn't want them going to school and making kids feel bad if they had a smaller Christmas than them. And then as soon as they were old enough, I was like, guys, Santa is not real. That's absolute BS. It's mommy. I get you everything. And there are years it's going to be great, and there are years that it's not going to be great. And, like, you just have to be happy with anything that you get. And so having that as, like, a part of, like, their core value system too, I think is, like, huge. Just, like, I don't like to lie to them. They very much grasp the reality. They've also seen me, like, I don't want to see that. I don't want them to ever see me in a broken moment, but they see me struggle. I let them, because they should. They should know how hard you have to work for things. And that nothing is just like, oh, I want to do this, boom, I have it. Like, you have to see me grind for that, you know, and I have grinded so hard. And, like, I want them to know all of that. And, like, we live across the street from the high school, but my daughter just recently, she was on crutches. She had, like, a minor knee injury, which she's fine, but I had to drive her to school every day for a couple of weeks, and every day that we were driving to school, I gave her a business lesson on the way to school, because, like, and a lot of it was, like, about money, and we talked about, you know, like, some losses that I had taken in my business, and things that were, like, harder to talk about and deal with even. But I think that that's the part they have to see, is, like, sometimes it's super hard. Like, some days it's really, really, really hard, but then there's days where it's really awesome.
I like that. I like the way you mother your children. No, I really do. It's important.
I hope I'm doing it right.
No, I do believe you're doing it right. I just wanted to give you that little nugget, that little gem.
I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. You actually mentioned earlier that you were a single mom at one point. Mm-hmm. What was life like as a single mom?
It was unforgiving at times, but also built up a strength in me that, like, nothing and nobody could tear down. I don't think at any point, like, from here on out, like, that's there to stay. I'm super lucky that I found a partner that carries a lot of the weight and came into things, like, very ready for that. He has a ton of younger nieces and nephews that he did a lot of the raising and rearing with. So very experienced, no children of his own. And when we met each other, like, he just dove in head first and was like, whatever it is that you need, like, I'm here. And so now I'm a little bit spoiled with that. Like, sometimes I stop and I'm like today I had to get ready to come here. And when I got home from, like, running around and doing errands, he was like, all right, just go get ready. I'll make dinner. And I'm like, I'm not sure you realize the weight that carries, because for the longest time, like, that wasn't even an option for me. Like, whatever I had to do, like, even when I homeschooled them. So when I homeschooled them, I worked bartending, and I would work from 5 p.m. to 3 o'clock in the morning and come home and sleep for 2 hours and get up and get our lesson plans ready for the day. And, like, that was just how I lived my life because I had to. So
I get it.
It also makes me look at people and go, ooh, no excuses.
Like, definitely not.
I'm a no excuses type of person.
Yeah.
And, like, sometimes stuff that people say, I'm like,
don't give me that.
That must be nice for you.
Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from. I'm a mom myself.
Yeah.
My daughter's 10, so only one, but I do understand where you're coming from doing it by yourself.
Absolutely.
It does take a toll on you mentally.
No matter how many you have, you still have to make that sacrifice.
Yes.
Like, of everything, of all of you, you know? You have to put yourself on pause for years, you know? And then you get to find that again, But
do you ever find as a mom that you feel guilty for putting yourself on pause, but also for putting them first?
It's like,
and not yourself. It's like, it's like topsy-turvy. Yeah.
Constantly, where I'm like, I should be doing more for myself.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, the moment I do something, I'm like, oh, you're wasting time. What are you doing? You should be doing more for your family right now. Like, it's constant. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if that battle ever goes away.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But we navigate through it the best way we can. I wanted to switch gears back to homeschool for a second.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the things that you teach your children during the homeschool curriculum that they don't teach in public school?
So we actually, it's funny, they started learning a second language, like, immediately. I'm not fluent in French, but I love French. Spanish can be more useful in the U.S., but French is becoming more and more useful. So they started learning French. So I would have a board that they would do every morning, and half the board would be in French. So, like, everything that we did in English, we also did in French. And the public school system, I don't think they start teaching a second language until, like, 5th or 6th grade, something like that. Whereas the fundamentals of that stuff should already be happening at a very young age. They learn things about money and about cooking and about nature. That was, like, a huge one for us. I'm, like, a nature freak. I'm hiking constantly. I'm camping constantly. Like, I'll just go by myself. Well, before I had Dejan, I would just throw a backpack on with my tent and stuff, and I would just go, like, into the woods and spend, like, 2 days. Like, with, like, nothing. Like, no bathrooms, nothing. So.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. But, and, like, the kids learn the same thing. So, like, they could start a fire. They could go out into the woods and survive if they had to overnight. Like, they could probably catch food if they needed to, and, like, know what they could eat, and, like, pick mushrooms, and know what's safe and what's not safe, and plant a garden, and bake bread, and do all these things that when you're in school. And they also learned everything else too. So, like, it never took away from their academics. They didn't not learn world history or U.S. history or the fundamentals of mathematics and reading and writing. They still learned all those things, but, like, they also learned all the things that make real life. Wow. Because, like, no matter what you learn in school for academics, like, real life is going to still happen.
That's true. So you teach some life skills firsthand.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That really is.
And they can, like, my 14-year-old has been cooking breakfast. Like, she'll be like, oh, I'm going to cook breakfast. Like, she gets mad if we buy cakes for people's birthday in our house. She's like, why do you let me make the cake? What's wrong with you?
Oh my goodness. And she's good at cooking, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, amazing.
And do your other kids, are they ready to get in the kitchen too, or?
My son's careless, so, like, not so much so, but, like, he tries, like, he really does. And, like, they've been running a roadside stand for a long time where, like, my oldest will bake, and, like, they have their little roadside stand. He makes the lemonade, and my youngest picks flowers from the garden, and they, like, make their little money, and They've made like $200 in a day doing that.
Really?
Yeah.
They're really business-minded children, like their mother.
Yeah. My oldest does women in business group after school.
Nice.
So, yeah.
What are some of the mistakes you've made as a parent that you've tried to correct if you could?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So many. It's crazy. Hopefully none that they remember really that badly. I think that allowing my children to see the toxicity between myself and my mother that exists now because of the way that I was raised is probably one of my biggest mistakes and regrets. So my mom just retired and moved to Maine in August, but before she did, she lived here with us, and that was like probably not a good situation to have her living with us. And like nothing that was extreme, but it was just not a healthy relationship where there was a lot of silent animosity or tension in the house where maybe they didn't know that it was happening, but I'm sure that they could feel it. And I think that that's something that when kids are young, like that can affect them deeply. What if they let it or not is kind of up to them, but I think that's definitely one of the biggest mistakes that I've ever made.
I'm sure they'll forgive you for it.
Hopefully they don't remember that much.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if they even remember, exactly. Yeah. So if you don't mind, can I ask about their father?
Yep, so my older two, same dad, and like not that much involved, not at all when they were young, and now kind of like intermittently, and it's actually just gotten to the point where I try to just ignore him, and not in a way where I'm like, you can't come around. There's always, my daughter has a cell phone. My son just spoke to him the other day, but I don't try to pursue it anymore. When they were young, I used to kind of chase that dream for them because everybody wants their kid to have a dad. And so I used to try to like force there to be a relationship between them. I haven't been with him since my son was born. And he's 12. So like for me, there's no like emotional connection at all other than the investment in my kids having everything that they should have. And then my youngest one, her dad is in Alabama, so long distance, but they have a fairly decent relationship. They talk more often. But really, honestly, if you ask any of the three of them who their dad is, they would probably say Dejan.
Really? How long has he been in their life?
He's only been around for 3 years. And that's who they would probably tell you their dad is.
Wow.
He goes to conferences. He does every single sports game, pick up from after school clubs, like everything that a parent would do is what he does. So, yeah.
And how did you come across him?
So that's crazy. I didn't want to, but I went to an employee's birthday party when I was managing a restaurant, and he had known him his entire life. We exchanged phone numbers, and if you ask him, he will tell you I ghosted him for 12 weeks. It was just super, super busy. I was managing a restaurant, so I didn't get back to him for 12 weeks, and the day that he told his brother that if I didn't call him, he wouldn't answer even if I had called him, was the day that I called him. And we went on a date, and then I didn't talk to him again for like 6 weeks. And then I fell asleep in the movies on our second date. And then the day after that, he showed up. It was the day after our second date was Mother's Day. He showed up at my job where I was managing the restaurant with Flowers because I was working like an 18-hour shift, I think, on Mother's Day. And that was it.
So you weren't exactly looking for a partner at the time?
No.
And what qualities did he have, again, that made you gravitate?
Just everything. I think the first message that he sent, the first text message he ever sent me was, the warrior in me respects the warrior in you. We're going global. That was like, I still have it. I think that was the text message. And I was like, He's probably one of the most adorable people I've ever met.
That is super romantic. I love that.
Yeah.
That was too cute. And you guys have been inseparable ever since.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, like, I know that when people have bonus parents, some moms are like, yeah, you're here, but I discipline my kids. Like, does he have, like, a certain say? Like, is there a certain boundary line?
There's no boundary. I feel like it's completely collaborative. Like, he tries to play the good cop a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But he's just as disciplinary as I am.
Yeah?
Yeah. He'll do this thing where we'll be in the room and he'll be like, all right, go take the remotes. And I'm like, whoa, no, you go take the remotes. Why do I have to go take them? You be bad. You be mean.
Y'all got to do a rock, paper, scissors from now on.
Yeah. I'm like, why is it me?
So what's your kids' relationship like with your mom? I meant to ask you that.
My oldest, like, knows, but they love her. That's Grammy. Like, yeah.
And your dad?
No. Not at all. Yeah, we don't even talk to him. So, and that's like a whole nother story.
No, that's fine. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
So when your daughter gets older, because I'm sure as moms, we've been through heartbreak. Mm-hmm. How will you help your daughter navigate that?
I'm not sure. I feel like we've done it once. So there was this boy that she was talking to at school, but a very big troublemaker. So we were kind of like, can't do that. And I feel like that was kind of like her first like heartbreak. But she was afraid to tell us because she knows that we really don't like this kid. So she was like trying to play it off really, really cool. And like I gave her a ride to school and I was like, listen, if you need to talk about it, we can talk about it and I won't get mad at you. And she's like, no, fine. I'm like, okay, well, at least talk to your friends if you're feeling heartbroken. But I'm the type of mom where I want to show up at the door and be like, why? You know? So I just tell her, I tell her all the time, I'm like, if you're not going to be with someone, which you're not going to be with your high school sweetheart, why bother wasting the time building a relationship with someone who won't be there when you could be putting that time and energy into your friends who will be there for the rest of your life? So I don't know if that'll stick. Probably won't.
One can only hope.
Hormones.
Yes, definitely hormones.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that? I'm so curious because my daughter's 10 and I'm about to start dealing with it. So
that was like when we started. And yeah, so welcome to the show. My almost 11-year-old, actually the other day, she did something and Dejan looks at me and he goes, oof. I was like, what? He's like, you know what's about to start happening with her. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you didn't just catch that whole attitude. I was like, oh no, is that where we are with life?
Oh gosh. Mm-hmm. But you've been through it already before, so you know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
What are some of the principles that you instill in your children?
Oh man, hard work, honesty, trust, and communication, I think. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I hope. Oh, and like the constant hunger for knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like always be seeking out knowledge and everything.
Do you believe in the terminology that experience is the best teacher?
I think so, yeah. I think you can read something in a book a million times and then the moment that it's actually put in front of you, it starts to make sense. So I also didn't do super, super well throughout high school academically. Like I just didn't care for it, I think. And have since, like, I pick up topics I don't even have, like, business, like, in. Like, I read a book on quantum physics, like, and I have no business reading a book on quantum physics. Like, there's no, like, context for me. I just, like, did it, you know? And I think it's, like, just that, like, constant hunger to, like, learn something new. And then, like, when you do fall into a field of either career or business, whatever it is that you're doing, like, constantly seeking out new knowledge in that field is key to everything. So, like, whether you're a mom full-time and you're constantly seeking out knowledge on parenting or, like, things to do with your kids or whatever it is, or whether you're a CEO of, like, a huge corporation that does, like, you know, hedge fund investing, like, you better be one step ahead of the game for that thing. whatever that field of business is that you're in. So like constantly absorbing knowledge.
Well said. How would you navigate the conversation of don't do drugs?
I mean, realistically, honestly, like I experimented when I was a teenager. And I think that we live in a different world now. So like what I was like, I'm 25. So like what I was exposed to in like the early 2000s as a teenager, is very different than what kids are exposed to now. Drugs are very normalized through the culture that they experience. And there's no real way to like avoid that. Like with my generation, drugs were still pretty taboo. Like unless you knew someone who did drugs, you weren't that exposed to drugs. Like you didn't like see it constantly in like, well, I mean, you weren't even really like, there was, it sounds silly, I'm dating myself, there was MTV. But like other than that, like there wasn't like YouTube and TikTok and this stuff where like you're constantly absorbing culture. And because drugs are so normalized in this culture, like there's no just avoiding it until they're old enough where like, oh, for the first time they ran into drugs at a party and then you have to talk about it. Like it's just a part of what they know now. And I think explaining to them consequence to action and result to behavior is key. So like, yeah, you can do whatever it is that you're going to do, but know that this is where that's going to lead you. So in my family's life, my kids have been fortunate enough to have family members that passed away from addiction, and are still living but lost everything that they loved due to alcoholism and addiction. And I say fortunate enough because that has given them a firsthand experience of knowing and seeing and developing their own feelings and opinions of that will never be me. So just being honest with them about what they're seeing and letting them know that like the choices that were made is what led this person to this final result. That has been a key for me, for my kids.
So you told them about yourself as well?
My kids are, yeah, they are pretty aware of like what my life has been like.
And how hard was it for you to?
I think with my oldest, like it's easy for me because I can say to her, you know, like it took me a long time. Like I didn't really figure things out till I was 27, and for me to say like, listen, that's not what I want for you. You need to kind of learn from the mistakes that I've made before you go down that same road. I think that's huge to be able to say that.
Absolutely.
And I hope it sinks in.
I'm sure it will. I get like super like, when I ask this question, but I have to ask. I ask all my moms. Was there any point in time where you felt like I either don't want to be a mother or I can't do this?
There was a funny time and a serious time.
Okay. Tell me about both, please.
I'll tell you about the serious one first. That way, like, I can follow it up with the funny one, so we don't end on like a bad note. So I said that my youngest her dad lives in Alabama. When I was 22, I kind of was in this place where I felt like my life was falling apart. And my oldest was 2, and I literally made a decision to pack everything that I owned into my Saab and drive down to Alabama for no reason in particular and start my life over. And I had been there for about a week and found out I was 5 weeks pregnant with my son. And that was the moment where I was like, I'm not sure. Like, I don't have anybody. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want to do this. And that was like a period for me where I had to like get through that. And I did. And then after I had my son, and he was like a few months old, and my daughter, she will kill me for telling this story, went through this phase where she would wake up from her nap. She was like 2.5, 3. She would wake up from her nap and take her diaper off with poop in it and smear it on the wall next to her crib. I remember calling my dad at the time. I was still talking to him and saying to him, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, if this is what being a mom is, I don't want it. And that was like, I think the funniest moment of that for me, for sure.
I think every mom has gone through that on both sides of the spectrum. So I resonate with you 110%. Absolutely. I would have freaked out too.
I was like, what the F?
Oh my goodness, Claire, I really love this interview. It was so refreshing for me. Like your parenting skills, I like them because they are different.
Yeah.
And they definitely matter. And I know there are a bunch of moms out there that can learn from you as well. So I do have one more question though before we wrap. Tell me 5 things that you feel make a great mom.
Ooh, that's hard. You put me on the spot.
Oh, take your time. We're not live.
Love your kids even when you don't like them, which is super, super huge. Don't forget that you're the parent. Be willing to sacrifice everything all the time. Leave a legacy. And make sure that your kids have core values.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well said. Thank you so much for taking out the time to sit down and speak with me today. But one more time, can you please tell the people where they can look up your wedding event planning business?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, Completely by Clare. You can find us on Google, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and www.completelybyclaire.com.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Everyone, that's a wrap for Parental Vision Podcast. Once again, this segment was sponsored to us by Faye's Coffee. Have a wonderful night. Bye.